GreaterStl@SN.wix.com/1314 or YouTube.tv/channel/channel/channel and only on the Greater STL Sports Network.
Hello and welcome to the Sports Blog on the Greater STL Sports Network. Robert Bolsey here with you. You can tweet me at rbolseyjr. You can tweet the Greater STL Sports Network at GreaterStlSN. You can find us on anywhere: Google Play, Blueberry, TuneIn. Blueberry says it sends it to iTunes. Greater STL One Word Sports Network. YouTube and Facebook, same way. You can also download the podcast and watch us live at gstlsn.wix.com/1314, gstlsn.com/1314. You can also call in and vent today. We're opening the phone lines back up. Got them going again. 636-517-3660. 636-517-3660. Couple technical difficulties to start the show. I'm a little pissy today. Didn't get much sleep. I got some stuff done I didn't want to do. It's done, so I ain't got to worry about it. But, yeah. So, if I'm a little mad, other than the Blues lost, and it's, man, another season, and you really wasn't looking forward to much for them in the playoffs after how the regular season went. I mean, they weren't expected to make the playoffs about halfway through the season. So, it's kind of nice to see that they got through one round. That they even made it in general, but that they got through the first round and gave themselves a chance for the Western Conference playoffs. Now the slight problem is that you had 6 games in this series. And the Blues didn't play their best games until the last 2. The 2 that you were on the brink of getting knocked out of the playoffs. It doesn't even make any sense to me that they would change up the way they played after essentially 4 games of them dominating the series. And it happened the same way in the Wild Series. If you didn't have Jake Allen in any one of these series, you would have lost in the first round. And Mike Yeo said after the game that there's something to look forward to next year and stuff like that. I can't really see it. Now, Schwartz played better in the second round than he did in the first. But after that, there really wasn't anybody. You can say Petrolangelo had a good series, Allen, Schwartz, and Edmondson on the offensive side. And you ask him for one game in Game 5. Phenomenal Game 5 for him. He scored a goal. Kept us in the series. But there's really nothing else that you can look into and say, hey, there's a lot we can change here. The only free agent that you got that matters at all is Upshaw. That's only $900,000 off the books. And then you're going to have to re-sign Fabry in the long run. And maybe that's the big benefactor, is that you have another guy that can score out there, and Fabry plays a little bit of a different game than some of the Blues offensive players. He actually goes out there and hits. He plays big for as little as he is. And Tarasenko showed a little bit of it in the last few games. Looked like he got tired of getting hit. But he doesn't play much defense. But you got guys making big money on this team that don't play with big money. And I understand that they get players in St. Louis, Midwest, cold, hot summer. You're going to have to overpay. But you're overpaying just about anybody. And you're going to have to deal with this for at least 2 more years. 18-19, you start getting some money off. With Stastny and Petro, that's a little bit over $10.5 million. But then there's Fabry. There's also little bitty guys that you're going to want to sign in there. You're also going to have to sign draft picks and things like that. So you're really going to have to wait till 19-20 when Laterra, Bouwmeester, and Gunnarsson come off the books. That's $13 million. But that's 2 more years of this. Now you're hoping that maybe some of these contracts get shipped off to Las Vegas. Berglund may be one of them. Dad in there with all that. But you can't look at anybody else on them top 12 forwards and say that, man, they had a good series. And there's guys like Berglund, there's Laterra, there's Perron. Now, there's also your other 2 top players were injured in Stastny and Steen, but they didn't have a good series either. And the problem with the Blues is they're not really developing players. If you look, a lot of these are trades. Now you develop Parayko. Tarasenko was already a star. You develop Swartz and Petrolangelo. But after that, there's nobody. And you hope that Fabry comes out here and has a different kind of season. Hopefully he doesn't get injured and we have him in there when we need him. But everybody wants to call it change to the coaching staff or change the way you play. Well, it would help if you would develop players. Now, Yo didn't come in until late in the season to replace Hitchcock, so maybe there was something there where they were still playing Hitchcock style, mixing in with Mike Yo's a little bit, and maybe the style of hockey would change. But you're looking at basically the same team next year. Basically all the way up till 18, 19, 19, 20. And I don't know if you can trade any of these players. Can you really trade Bouwmeester or Stastny or even a Laterra? I mean, right now I'd give up Bouwmeester and Laterra for low-round picks. There's just no point to them being on a team. Bouwmeester's just fast, and maybe that's what catches everybody's eye about him. And he had a good game this game, but he also couldn't keep the puck in the offensive zone, and he had trouble towards the end of the game with odd man rushes. And it's not all the defenseman's part, because they're playing on their back heels. And I said this last show too. Because you have the guys like Stastny, Perron, Laterra, Berglund, the list goes on and on, not playing with them, they're not even trying to keep the puck in the offensive zone. They're trying to keep the puck out of the defensive zone, and it doesn't work. And when they did try in the last few minutes of the game or in the third period to try to get some scoring going, you see what happened. A bunch of odd man rushes led to goals, and then you get an easy empty netter at the end of the game. I just don't understand where you can look at it and say, man, the GM's done good. There's not many trades that you can say in the last few years that have helped the Blues. Maybe if you look at the team right now, Bertuzzo's the best one. You've had the Elliott trade. I'm not saying that didn't work out, but it didn't also fare you all that great. The Shattenkirk, Chris Stewart trade, all you had left was Shattenkirk, and he's gone. There's not much out there that the Blues GM front office has actually done. Now, maybe getting rid of the coach and changing the coaching. I mean, you've seen what Brodeur did and Ty Cochran when Allen down the stretch in the playoffs. And hopefully next year they teach him how to play the puck. If he can play the puck just like halfway like Rene did, it could be different from the Blues, because you see what Patrick Rene did. He got the puck. He never let the puck hardly stay in the zone. Most of his rebounds he kicked out pretty far to where it's going to be hard to get a really good shot off. There's just things there that's not understandable about this team. And hopefully with the goalie coach and Martin Brodeur showing Allen some new things, showing some of the things he did, can make Allen a better goalie. But you're not going to have the money and stuff to go out there and splurge on another scorer, or even a guy that can go out there and be effective going out there and hitting and getting in the middle of the ice. That was your David Baskets, Troy Bauer guy. You let both of them guys go. I understand that you tried to keep Bauer and it didn't work out. Backes got a way too big of a contract to even hold on to. But your response to that was David Perron. I mean, if you look at a team like Chicago, you see Nashville, you see teams like Dallas that develop players, but they also have guys that are going to go out there and do something different than try to score goals when you got Patrick Kane and Towles out there. When you have Schwartz and Tarasenko, you have to have players that make an actual difference in the game. You can't just rely on Tarasenko to score every goal. When you see what Berglund had supposedly this great year, did nothing in the playoffs. And you just re-signed him, which makes zero sense. So I'm not understanding what the Blues' long-run aspects were. It was kind of like they thought of this year as a rebuilding season, the way they talked with getting rid of shit. And you only got rid of Shattenkirk. That's not rebuilding. That's taking one defenseman out and putting a guy like that maybe should have been in there number 2 though. Getting extra time for maybe a Parenko or a Joel Edmondson, Colin Gunnarsson. I'm still on why they don't give Tyree a chance, or maybe like when you look at the defense, maybe a Chris Butler a chance. And maybe I'm a little high on Chris Butler because he's from St. Louis, but it seems like he played well up here. Now you are developing some guys, but they're mostly defensemen. Litbaum, uh, Vince Dunn. I mean, the guys that you've had down there, Yaskin, Porardi, haven't really developed into them players that you need. And maybe they think they got a guy like down there like that in Agostino, but they gave him a little bit of chance and he went right back down. You could have brought them up, and I don't know if it's because they were in the playoffs. But if you see the scratch list for Nashville, it's a whole list, and then you see the scratch list for St. Louis, and it's the same old guys that have been up here. So the Blues got to find a way to develop players. And in a season to where it looked like it was a loss for a season to come back and do it, it's great. But you can't play as poor as you did in the playoffs and think that you're going to win playoff series. It's just not imaginable. And it's every year. It seems like they have a problem scoring goals. I mean, if you really look at it, they might have to go on a real fire sale and get as many people as they can get out here and have a couple bad seasons and get high draft picks. When's the last time the Blues had a really decent draft pick? The 2000s after the lockout? When you play as well as the Blues have, and I'm not going to say well, but if you play halfway decent or a mediocre season, you're most likely like in the playoffs in the NHL. Half the teams make it. Over half the teams. And I don't know how they would fix that if they did. There's not really much you could look at. Maybe just 8 teams getting in, 4 from each. Kind of like what baseball does. But there's not much to look forward to if the Blues play like this, because you're going to get mediocre draft picks and they're not developing them guys. So basically, you were in 2 series with your goalie won, and you couldn't score goals, and you can't look and say, hey, it could be different next year. The only way you could look at that and say is if Fabry plays a whole lot different player. And maybe Schwartz has a better season. Maybe some of these players do get over injuries, Steen, Stastny, Fabry, and then maybe Schwartz has a different kind of season. But some of these teams have 2-3 good lines. We do not. And then you can't make the effort to go out and get somebody that can be a difference maker because you only have $900,000 coming off the books this year for Upshaw. I just don't understand the whole aspect of the front office at times for this team. And it looks like at points where like Doug Armstrong's the greatest guy in the world when it works, but it never works in the playoffs. I mean, you can't really sit here and say, let's go out and look at the offseason and see what the Blues can do, because they don't have the money like that coming off the books. $900,000 is your biggest contract coming off the books. And that's only one. The rest of the guys are minor league guys that make $400,000 or $500,000. And with having to sign draft picks, with having to sign guys to fill out that AHL roster, you've really gained nothing from losing Shattenkirk or when you Upshaw. It's going to be 2 years before you really gain anything to even give you a chance to sign somebody special. And they put themselves in this situation with the contracts that they gave out to Laterra and Berglund. Stastny's contract. I don't want to harp on him because he's from St. Louis also, but you have to sit here and harp on it a little bit because he didn't play well. And he hasn't played well really in the 2 years he's been here. I mean, it's great that Tarasenko can go out there and get 40, but if nobody else is going out there and getting anything, you're pretty much a mediocre team that's going to make the playoffs and lose in the first or second round. Unless you have that dominant goalie that gets you through the first round. And that's not always going to help when you're playing a team that has great goal scorers. And then when you let the defenseman just take over 2 or 3 games of Ryan Ellis. I mean, the Blues don't have them kind of guys. The defensemen go out there and take over a game that make you go out there and think, wow. And maybe Parayko is a guy that can turn it like that. I kind of thought that guy was Shattenkirk. I thought before that, around the same time, that Pietrangelo could be that guy. But you also don't have guys that play tough. The Blues were out tough in both series. I mean, your only line that can do it is the Upshaw, Brodziak, and Reeves line. And the Blues try to switch that up by throwing Otero on that line and moving Brodziak and Upshaw around. I guess to make the line tougher. But they're not going to be big difference makers on a team that needs it. That needs somebody else. And with the money you got, you're going to have to start development here. I don't know if it's redoing the whole AHL system. I don't know if it's even from, maybe getting out of Peoria and switching to Chicago. Maybe that had something to do with it. I can't explain it. Because it seems like at times it used to work. But we're such a, I guess we'll call it, fan-friendly town. I think we see some guys a little higher aspects than most cities would see them. I mean, minus Tarasenko, there's not really much else that you can look at and say, wow. You know what I'm saying? And the other teams have that. I mean, look at Malkin and Crosby in Pittsburgh. Seems like Washington has 3 or 4 of them guys, but you've seen that Pittsburgh's kind of taking it over in that series. So there's going to have to be other ways for you to figure this out. And it's going to have to be through the draft and through your minor league system. I'm still at a loss for the whole Ty Ratty thing. I don't get it. When he does come up, he plays in the 3rd and 4th lines, and I just don't get it. And then you gave a guy like Agostino a chance before you gave Ratty a chance. And then you let Ratty go. He comes back, and he still didn't get a chance on a team that's needs goal-scoring injuries. So maybe I'm looking at players too high, too fan-friendly guy. I don't really harp on the things as much as I should. And yeah, you could say, hey, these guys are injured. A guy like Pietrangelo, who's the captain now, so he's going to be out there, and most of the scrums are getting hurt. A guy like Steen was hurt. A guy like Schwartz was hurt. But every team's go through that. And players step up. And hopefully Steen, who had a horrible year, has a comeback year. Hopefully a guy like Fabry goes out there and gets up and changes your aspect of your team. But am I relying on that? No, because I've seen it, and it hasn't been team changing. Steen hasn't been that guy in a couple years, really, since Tarasenko took over. I mean, you know what Perron's all about, and you brought him right back into the fold. And he played the same way. He's a 3rd-line player. Berglund's been here way too long, and you gave him a new contract. So they're going to have to look in the front, either in the front office or with that AHL staff. I mean, when's the last guy that the Blues, other than Allen, who wasn't really anything until this year? I was looking through some of the old sports blogs and some of the old blogs, and that's all I did was complain about Allen. But they really never developed a goaltender. They traded the only guy that's developed now, and Ben Bishop, for Brian Elliott. So who else do you got? You can't just keep developing the defensemen, because the defensemen aren't going to score. And that's what this team has trouble with, is scoring. You usually have to wait for Tarasenko to get going to open it up for the other players. And he didn't get going in the series because they knew that he was going to be the only guy to score. So they were getting after him. And it seemed like it was kind of nice to see it towards the end of that with Tarasenko seemed like he was kind of mad about the whole situation. Like, he started going out there and actually hitting and actually playing a little bit. I mean, he's a big guy, and he started playing like it a little bit. And he still wasn't playing defense, but he was actually going out there and, hitting back. And that's probably not the guy you want doing it, but it's nice to see that, hey, I'm not going to let you just tough me around, I could come right back with it. And if you go through this whole thing, you can see that the Blues play in the hardest division in the NHL with Chicago, Nashville, Dallas. You got all these teams that you're playing in the hardest division out there. Minnesota, the Wild, excuse me. So you're going to have to, and you're going to play against these teams again with the same players because the NHL, unless you find a decent trade, there's not really much revolving doors in the NHL. Teams aren't going out there and getting these players with the high contracts and trades for their prospects. They're developing them and making them better and making them have an effect on the team. And it seems like the Blues just kind of give up at certain times and just try to go out and make crazy trades and get nothing out of them. I mean, you traded for Bouwmeester, you get stuck with almost a $6 million a year contract. I mean, it doesn't make sense for a team that struggles with money to add $6 million. When you've actually, and if you look at it, they've actually been good at development defensemen. Now, when they got to Bouwmeester, it wasn't all the way like that. But now it is, and you're stuck with that. I mean, you have other guys that played center in this team, so what's the point of having a $7 million Laterra, or excuse me, Stastny, a $5 million Laterra? You got guys like Sobotka and Steen that played center and did a decent job. I mean, I could see Steen and Sobotka winning 40% of the faceoffs. It's not that hard. So I don't know if it's the front office, if it's the coaching, if it's the minor league development. I don't know what it is that makes the team like this. But it's about time to change, because it's been since before Hitchcock got here. Many people can blame it on Hitchcock. It was before he got here. It's been the same way since after the lockout and after we got halfway decent when we brought Hitchcock in. It was still before that before him. With the revolving door, we have the Andy Murray, the Davis Paynes, all that. So there's got to be a way to change that because other teams have figured it out. Now, it seems like a lot of them teams are in the playoffs every year. The Chicago's, LA Kings, who actually missed it this year. It seems like that. But the Blues have to figure it out. Or we're just going to be going through the same thing for years and years to come. And you see what they'll do in the offseason. And it's not going to be players. You're not going to see players come to this team this offseason. It's either going to be coaching or front office changes. And that's it. Because we just don't have the money. This team doesn't make money. And you don't have money to spend. Because you have to keep certain players that actually do make a difference. The Schwartz, Tarasenko, Fabry's of the world. And you have to give them halfway decent contracts so they just leave and go to LA. Or where it's not 20 degrees in the winter and 107 during the summer. That's why I don't understand how Florida's neither one of the Florida teams are all that great. I don't understand that. I guess there's only one down there now. Who knows? But the Florida Panthers, I don't know who wouldn't want to go down there and play. But you can't just hand out money. And that's what the Blues have done. They just handed out money. Or they brought it onto themselves and got rid of prospects that end up turning out to be good players. And you can't do that when you're in the situation the Blues have been in for over 5 years. I mean, I feel sorry for the people that have been watching this team for 50 years. Because they were so great to start off, and it's been pretty much mediocre ever since. Just think if you started watching the Blues and seeing them going to the Stanley Cup Finals the first 2-3 years. You haven't been back since, and you didn't have the players to do it. I mean, you look at it, the 1 year you got Gretzky. And Mike Keenan ruined that, of course, which he did a lot of things. But all you had was Gretzky and Hall. All you had was Hull and Oates. I mean, after that, there's nobody still. And you got lucky guys like that stayed. Hall that stayed. You're lucky that Tarasenko signed a contract he did for as long as he did. Because it's just not the biggest thing to want to play in the Midwest. I mean, you see it with the Cardinals, but that's what sucks about not having to have the salary cap is that you got to fill at least 18 spots with the salary cap. I mean, the Cardinals can fill 40 just fine with it, and with no salary cap, and give out money to Brett Cecil and Dexter Fowler. The Blues can't do that, and not many NHL teams can. But when you develop players and your team starts becoming good, it's going to make the players want to stay more. Like I think that maybe the only reason that Tarasenko even signed his contract is because he knew Hitchcock was gone. So you get kind of lucky there because he knew Hitchcock was going to be gone to sign that contract, but you can't just keep signing the guys just because they're good players. Not Tarasenko, not going to Tarasenko, but the Laterra, Bomeister, Berglunds, Stastny's of the world. And Stastny's contract's the same way. I mean, Petro's making $4 million a year. Is he really a $4 million player? He's worth more than $4 million than Laterra is. But you sign these small guys like an Upshaw, a Braziak, Ole Jokinen, Steve Oz to these small contracts just to play on the fourth line. So you understand that at that time you have to fill the roster with veterans that make a fourth line difference. Well, you need to start splitting up the money more and more instead of just giving it to the core players that you think are core players, because it's not. It just hasn't worked. And we're sitting here complaining about a team that makes the playoffs every year. So it's nothing to complain about because a lot of teams don't see it. But I almost want them not to make the playoffs for a couple of years to try to get a halfway decent draft pick. You almost want them to tank for the next couple of years, and they let all these contracts get off the books and hope they can develop, and then they can bring some players in here and sign the guys the contracts that actually deserve contracts. Because you're going to run in the ball stall in 2 years when Fabry's contract is up. So it's not going to end because you've already started it. So this little thing where you're getting mediocre players and signing a big contract, they're not going to leave or be able to leave because the Blues have to sign these type of guys to keep some of the players that they need to keep. But you're spending too much money. You're spending too much money on a lot of these guys. And, I mean, I'm not a front office guy in India, at least. So I don't know how it all works. But if you're going to complain that you're in the red every year and complain about that you're hitting the salary cap, there's got to be changes. And I don't know how to do that. And it's going to have to be development. And you're going to have to tank and develop to get some of these contracts off the books to get somebody else to make a difference. And I'm not completely blaming the whole Blues in this whole series because the referees suck. Umpires and referees in every sport have been, it's like they're just loving seeing themselves on TV or something. I don't get it. But you're going to hit obstacles and you have to play past them. You're going to hit injuries. You have to play past them. Your goalie's not going to be good every day. You have to play past it. And the Blues don't have the strength of scoring to play past it. And it's great that you're making the playoffs every year, but if you're a mediocre team making the playoffs, because that's all you got to be, is it really that fun? Is it really a point? And the team lost it because that's extra money that they don't abide for, that they don't count in, because you don't know at the beginning of the year. But it's not going to keep your fan base here if you keep playing mediocre hockey. You get to the first round of play. They're not going to want to see a first round team. They want to see give yourself a chance to win a Stanley Cup. And just about everywhere else, definitely the teams in your division has done it. So it's going to be 2 years before we can't even think about that. And that's a problem to me. And I'm not saying fire Double Armstrong. I mean, we had 2 guys doing it before. So why can't we do it again? Why can't we bring another guy like a John Davison back in? Because it seemed like that works just a tiny bit better than it just did with the one guy doing it. And then you don't have to put Martin Brodeur in the front office. I don't think that was really ever a front office job. I think you always hear in sports about I don't know, I can't remember exactly what it's called now, but assistant to the GM or something like that. That's most likely what he is, and then he had to come down there and be a coach. So you see that can change. So no, why not add another voice up there? Why is it just got to be Doug Armstrong when you ran with 2 guys for so long? And you see a lot of these teams with a former head coach on the bench along with the head coach. The Blues did it this year. It has to work somewhere. Other teams do it. Why can't it work for you guys? Because it's getting kind of annoying in the long run. And we're complaining about a team that ran into the second round. I mean, you see it. A lot of teams will love it, but it kind of gets old. Things get old after a while, and this has been going on for a long while. And it's probably going to be a little more different with football again this year. They're going to harp harder. The Cardinals aren't playing as well, so you're probably going to hear more yapping about the Blues. And hopefully they don't make hash decisions, like going out there and spending stupid money to make a guy, or firing Doug Armstrong all the way, or going on a full fire sale and getting rid of some of the good players because they have decent contracts and teams are going to take that on. You really hope that something happens in this expansive draft to get some money off their books. I mean, if I were them, I would throw Laterra, Stasny, Bumeister, Gunnarsson. I would throw them on that list and just see if they get picked up. You're going to lose players, and hopefully you don't lose them guys that can that are going to do something. Hopefully you don't lose a Kenny Agostino. Like Zach Sanford, I really like him. I actually think that's actually a good trade if they made to get draft picks in Sanford. Hopefully if you think he can be a difference maker, which I don't know if he can, hopefully you don't lose a guy like him, and hopefully you get some money off the books by losing guys that might have helped, but you can find replacement players just as good for $2-3 million less a year, and that helps with going in there at the trade deadline and making trades to have to bring money on. I mean, it helps with it all if you get some money off the books early for the next 2 years, and then you don't have to take to get better. And that's the only thing that can happen this year. But if you don't, it's fire sales. And do I want to see the Blues be the worst team in the league for the next 2 years? No. But do I think it might help just a little bit to try to go out there and get top draft picks? Yeah. But do I also think it would help it maybe if they tried something else by a different way in the minor leagues? Yeah. And I'm gonna harp on this. I don't know what goes on. But there's got to be some way to fix it because other teams have figured it out. Where they can go up against the salary cap and change the way that the minor leagues work and the way they draft and things like that. Because you got to look, Tarasenko was I think it was 15 or something like that, 13, 14, 15 in the draft. So you can get players that low to make a difference. But they need another star, and they don't have that. And hopefully they can either play as mature or they develop. And at that point, with the salary cap is, that's all you can hope. So be ready for this for the next 2 years, to be honest, because until 1920, you're gonna have to wait. But it's $20 million, $23 million come off the books, and then just them 2 years alone if you don't re-sign any of these guys. And Stasny might be a guy that they re-sign just to keep the whole town guy there. Petro most likely they're going to re-sign. But that $13 million from Laterra, Bomeister, and Gunnarsson, that might be a $13 million you just stick back in your pocket and try something else. But as I'm saying, it's going to be something else that doesn't happen until 2 years from now. So don't expect to see much change. That's all I'm saying. Is it's not going to be much player change. It's going to have to do with the personnel and in the minor leagues. Moving on to the Cardinals, it's been a horrible week. Today, Martinez, who I've been complaining needs more playing time, went to the DL. You call up a single A guy to replace him. That's all you had left on the 40-man. You got a guy like Dexter Fowler, who hasn't played the past couple games and is hurt. Because Scotty goes in the DL. Losing all your outfield spots. They call it Tommy Pham also, which I complained about because how's a 287 hitter going to be fair? Well, let's just say 3 home runs and 5 or 6 RBIs and wins you a game today, and tells you how much I know about sports. But it seemed like I didn't see him making this kind of difference because he wasn't like playing all that great at hitting anyways, and this is what the team needs at this time because you don't have the bullpen staff that you need. You don't have the defense that you need. You need hitting. And, well, he's been the guy to come up and hit. And sooner or later, you're going to get Fowler back, and you're going to play Pham, most likely, in whatever you think the better position is for him on the corner. Because Gritchick can pretty much play everywhere, and so can he, so you got to kind of pick and choose there. But you're running your bench short now. You're running your minor league short because you don't want to put some of these guys on a 40-man roster because if you actually need an extra pitcher or anything like that, and you end up having to take them off, they can be claimed at most times. But some, a lot of guys have options, but the Cardinals don't seem like they always use them too much. Like a Harrison Bader, maybe you want to see him come up instead of the single A guy in Sierra. But it seems like the Cardinals like to let guys develop a little further on, mature a little bit before they bring them up, because it seems like when they bring guys up, they want them to play that 162. So a guy like Sierra is not good. He's not going to be up here for the rest of the season. You kind of know that. Tommy Pham is a guy you might see for a while. I don't know who you would sit down in that situation. If you had to, most likely a pitcher, because you are running with a heavy bullpen. But you're kind of backing yourself into a wall at this point. And it's nice to see them. They're starting to hit a little bit of Carpenter, starting to hit home runs, which is nice. You're starting to see a guy like Diaz, as he's moved down to order, hit a little bit. So it's nice to see that finally come around. And you weren't really expecting anything too much from some of the players you brought up and some of your bench players, but you see Adams got a home run finally, and the left field experiment seems to be a little bit over, even though they threw him out there the other night. But they also have been throwing Diaz out there too, which is it's just something that I still don't understand why Carpenter can't go out there and do it. But if you trust Diaz out there, I have no problem with it. A guy with speed, a guy that has the arm a little bit. I have no problem with him playing. I have a problem with slow-ass man Adams out there. We've had enough of the slow left fielders, but you can't complain about the way Holiday played out there. Definitely last year. It seemed like his defense in the last 3 years of that contract he's a whole different defensive player. But when you got other guys that are faster, it seemed like they'd be more adequate to go out there, use them. And there's not, and Adams might just be, they're just trying to get players to play multiple positions and maybe look at trade bait, which I don't know if Adams is really trade bait with the way he's played off the bench in the past. So I don't know. I kind of don't understand it, but hey, if you got guys, you can figure it out. I mean, okay, we're moving Holiday to first last year. So it's nice to see that finally the hitting comes around a little bit. because the starting pitch is pitched well, and that's something you didn't totally expect for the worst guy on the roster right now is Wainwright, and Martinez started off slow. Michael Walker's pitched all right, even though it seems like him and Leake, once they get past, they're 6 inning pitchers, and I've said that before. Once they get past the 6th inning, it's a nothing thing. I mean, Leake was at 84, 85 pitches the other night, and this looked horrible after the 6th inning. But the one that's really surprised me has been Lance Lynn coming up to Tommy John. And you can see Wainwright's there, and he was a little bit older. But just in the last 4 starts, 25 innings, 16 hits, 2 earned runs, 7 walks, and 23 Ks for Lynn. I mean, he's been a dominant pitcher, and you don't see that usually off of Tommy John surgery. I tried to look it up, and to find a guy that had what was the best season after Tommy John, and it really wasn't much on the internet. And it was mostly relievers that did it. Billy Wagner, John Smoltz. I think I seen Josh Burnett on there. And it was guys here and there, but there really wasn't many that did it in that next year. And I'm going to name some stats for a player in a minute. But he got to pitch a little bit in the season before. It was only 4 games, 3 of them starts. So he actually got there and got some work in. But like the best stats for a person that was coming off of it was Chris Carpenter in that year that he did it. Was 17-4, 224 with 144 Ks and 38 walks. And you almost look at it like, hey, I want that guy to come off injury every year. 15-5, 346, 137 or 152, excuse me, with 38 walks. And the year he came back to the Cardinals from the injuries after got pitching 2 years when he was with Toronto. So to be as dominant as Lance Lynn has, but consistently with only a couple pitches, really has helped you out because you don't have the bullpen to do it. And for him, 4 starts, 25 innings, I mean, you can't beat that at all. It's just not happening all the time. I mean, that's almost 7 innings a game. And definitely with the struggles of Wainwright only going 5, and you got, like I said, Walker and Lynn are 6-inning pitchers. He's really up innings that you thought your bullpen was going to have to eat up. And you really, at this point, don't really want your bullpen out there. Cecil at the end of the day, your big money guy, didn't pitch that well. Seagrass looked better. Rosenthal has looked better, but they're scared to pitch him on back-to-back days. And O's just here and there. One day, one game great, one next game you're on the edge of your seat, like, oh my god, kind of like you were when they pulled the goalie in the Blues game tonight. You're kind of on the edge of your seat, hoping they score, and they get the every day. I walked upstairs and made some food after I was done with watching that, but it's kind of something that's great for this team right now. And I don't know if he's going to wear out any down the stretch or anything like that. At this point, you hope he don't because of Wainwright. But there's not many pitchers come up to disable us like that, or definitely from Tommy John, and pitch as well as he has. I mean, look at the way Rainer was like 14-14 with almost a 4 ERA. And that's kind of what you expected from Lynn this year. I mean, you were kind of hoping that they have somebody down there in the minor leagues that come up here and take your innings. The Tyler Lyons thing is always complexing to me of why he's not up here, a guy that can eat the innings and to pitch well for your team. But I guess they see something that I don't. So, you really don't have that that guy like that, other than Lyons, they would do that. It kind of looks like they wanted to use Rosenthal in that situation, and he's been hurt, so they're scared to use him there. But who else? I mean, Broxton, Cecil, Seagrass. Oh, there's not. Bowman maybe can do it, but it's you'd probably rather. Well, left-hander's a little more deceptive, and he hasn't. It's not like he has not earned a job. But of course, you're going to use your big money guys instead of a guy like a Tyler Lyons who still doesn't make any money. There's no point for him not to be up here. It's just not. The other guys, Tulio Lava's not going to do it. So Sokolovich isn't a guy that's going to eat up a bunch of innings in a one-game situation. They've tried to do it, and it just doesn't work. from the situation you're in, you're kind of glad that this hitting's coming around because you're losing some of your guys to the disabled list. Your bullpen's not pitching that well. And then you throw Lance Lynn in there with a guy like Martinez pitching well, a guy like Leak that's pitching well when he pitches only 6 innings. It's something you didn't expect, and it's nice to see it. It keeps the Cardinals where they are right now. They're fighting for first place, even though they suck. They don't suck. But they're a mediocre team at this point, and the whole division is. But if you got the pitchers keeping you in the games, you kind of hope the bullpen turns around. Then you're not as a mediocre team. You're a better team than what the other teams got. You look at the Reds with all their starting pitchers on the DL. You look like Milwaukee, no starting pitching. You look at Chicago, no start. Their whole pitching staff's at a loss. Pittsburgh, here and there, they got good pitching, but they don't have the hitting. And it seems like for the Cardinals, at times they got all three, and then other times they got none. But if some of these guys have the seasons that you expect them to have and expect them to grow, Carpenters, Fowlers, Piscotty's, Grichuk's, we look like a much better team than we've looked so far. We look like a much better team than a lot of them teams. So, really for the Cardinals, all you got to do is hope the hitting stays where it's at and hope the bullpen can somewhat start shutting teams down. Because if they don't, I mean, Dan McLaughlin today called this a big win. Well, it's only a big win because you were up 4-0 and you almost lost the game. I mean, yesterday Garcia was called out at first base and he was running out of the baseline, but he's running right down the line. You seen it today, almost like it looked like the call on O when O was running the baseline and Carpenter threw it high. It looked like it was tie goes to the runner. It was supposed to go. They still called it out. So just another, I just don't understand the whole referee thing with umpires and referees and all the sports. Looked like they won. It's like they needed FaceTime or something. Like I think if you didn't say their names as much, like Joe West, Angel Hernandez, in football, Ed Ockley. It's like they want their names to be said. Like they want people to know them. And to me, that doesn't make any sense. That they allow that. That the leagues allow it. So as long as you can keep the referees out of your way and keep the starting pitching and hitting up and get something out of the bullpen, this could be a whole different season than what you thought. You thought maybe you're going to be fighting the Cubs again. Well, maybe you take it this year. Maybe you will become the team that the Cubs are chasing after because they don't have it all. They sound like their pitching was, their bullpen was all that great, but they had this dominant starting pitching and good hitters. Well, they don't have the pitching this year to keep up with the hitting. So this could turn out to be a whole different thing as time moves on. You get some of these guys back, you get Piscotty and Fowler and Martinez back. Martinez, playing off the bench, get enough play time that he deserves because he has played well. And this could be a whole different thing. Now, staying in baseball, did you see the picture that and actually the Mets team put this out, and they were doing something. The crown goes to somebody thing. I don't know exactly what it was. I guess I don't know. I didn't really pay attention. But what I did see, and you're seeing a lot on Twitter, and that's where the picture actually was, and you're seeing a lot of it on Facebook, was somebody had a nice sized dildo in her locker that was behind, I think it was Kevin Pulowski. It was behind the guy that takes the crown, or whatever they did in the picture. I just don't understand why. There's just a grown man is in there with a dildo, sex toy, just hanging out in the locker. I understand it's all fun and games and stuff, but how long can you? Don't you see enough of that in the locker room? Enough naked men that you just got a random dick just hanging out in your locker? That's a little bit scary to me. But it's a bit, it's kind of fun. It's kind of like when you're younger and you see it for the first time, you're kind of like, oh. And you go through your parents' drawers. Like, I can remember when they used to have remote controls. I shouldn't say that. That's embarrassing for the person I've seen it, that it was. But, they have remote controls. You just put the batteries in it, it does whatever it wants. And I shouldn't know all this, but a little bit too much porno. And, It's kind of funny when you see it when you first see one, and you have fun with it. You fuck with it a little bit, chase people around, chase your friends and siblings around the house with it just for fun. But, like when I'm 30 now, I just not gonna see it and be like, I'm gonna hang this out. And when I take a picture of it, it's just be hanging there. It's a little scary to think that. And to each their own. Why not? I guess have a little fun. Just he shows up to the game that day, and players will put the dildo on his lap, and he's sitting there look at it, and maybe it's glued down or stapled down or something. He can't get it out, and he didn't try. And maybe they think the clubhouse could fix that. I don't know. But it kind of got me thinking, and just where my brain goes, of course. But where else would you see that at? I can only think of like two places, and that's in like the WNBA locker rooms or a softball locker room. And then it got me thinking, like, would I want to be Joanna Man or Tom Hanks? Tom Hanks is in the girls' locker room in the softball thing, and the Joanna Man, the girl that dressed up in the movie for the NBA thing. I couldn't figure out, like, would I want to be Tom Hanks? Or would I want to be the one that's in the locker room watching the girls and just hanging out? And either way, you're probably going to see something good. Either way. Like, if you really go along, you got Madonna. Rosie O'Donnell was wild back then. Maybe, get Madonna and Rosie Girl, and the pitcher and the catcher were pretty hot. Get you something going with that. Or, Joanna, man, you're hanging out with that all day long. And you can really feed into the girls, and, they'll play a little tuck, and, play around, and then, get them drunk enough to where they, you say, hey, I want to use, let's get after it, let's, put a strap in on. Then I was thinking, what happens when the girl, wants to go back and use it on you? And, sometimes I was thinking you just got to give to receive something. No, joking. But, it's funny that, to see that in there. But, like, really, it's like, which one would you rather be, the girl that's hanging out, the guy that's dressed up like a girl hanging out in the women's locker room, or would you rather be the coach that, like, nobody really, he's the coach of the women's team, like, nobody really notices it too much, but, just from the girls in the movie, like, the Grey Fox, or, Madonna, you got some freaks in the league of their own, with Rosie and Madonna. You really don't know where, Rivka, she went out with 50 and Rick Fox and all that, so she likes the stars and stuff, so she's a star effer. She's a star of her own, so she fuck whoever she wants in the long run. But which side would be freakier? Would it be the softball girls or the WNBA girls? Like, I guess, it might be the WNBA, because whoever would fuck Nick Griner is beyond me. You never know. She might be Joanna, man. She might already stole my idea. And maybe she likes the strap on. You never know. This is... But, it's just crazy to see that kind of stuff go over. And it's not all the time that you see something like that on Twitter. And for it to be seeing a major league park is really beyond me. But, them guys get bored. You're just kind of flying and playing. You see the same people every day. You got to lighten up the mood a little bit. I should have put that at a poll on Twitter. Would you rather be Joanna Man, or would you rather be in a WNBA locker room? Like, which one has the hottest star? Like, and of course, the reason I got stuck on this is I just turned to ESPN, and of course, college softball was on, and you can't beat some of them chicks either, man. Even a third base coach for I think it was Alabama, or it might have been Auburn. It was Alabama or something. I think it was Alabama. But the third base coach, I don't know if they put the players, like, you remember when you're in Little League and, the coaches don't show up, or one's drunker than a skunk and don't feel like staying out there. You get thrown out there at first base for your coach. As a coach, you're one of the players. She was pretty hot. Their first base coach, I don't know if it's a player or not, but they're old enough. They're in college. But so, softball locker room, or, in Jenny Finch, now she looks something different because she lost a lot of weight. There's been some high softball players too, and they're not. Not all of them are bad. Not a lot of the good ones are ugly in the WNBA, but there's not bad look. Skylar Dials, I think her name is. Girl that was on hanging out with Drake and stuff. Like, yeah, I'll take that. But yeah, maybe I should do it on tonight. Would you rather be Joanna Man or Tom Hanks. I mean, as long as like the girl don't come back with the strip-on idea, I'd want to be Joanna Man. You could work that pretty easily, you know. Because, you know, it's mostly lesbians in both locker rooms. I mean, I'm not saying that it's completely, but you never know. Skylar Diggins, I think is the girl's name. Bad little girl. And she's a pretty good player. But, yeah, anyways. We'll stay on the basketball topic while we're at it. And we don't talk a bunch of national bullshit on here. I don't talk a bunch of football. I don't talk a bunch of NBA. Pretty much nothing else. Now, I was watching the game last night with the Jazz and Golden State. I don't understand. Golden State has 3 of the softest players in the league. And referee lookers, just like LeBron. Curry, Klay Thompson, and Durant are like a bunch of drive-in people. Like, you know, when Durant drives in, he's going against a shooting guard, a point guard, backing down the little guys. He's not really backing down the bigger players. Gordon Hayward's played pretty well against them until the game last night. I just don't understand why they're not trying to overpower these guys and just beating up on Curry and Klay Thompson. Like you see it a little bit in the Boston and Wizards series where they're just going after each other. I don't see why it's not happening in this series. And I don't know if it's the coaches. I don't know if Quinn Snyder, you know, not trying to play that way or what. But I think that's the good way to beat Golden State is to go after them hard and actually play like a rough game to make Curry and Klay Thompson have to think about it a little bit. And they're just lucky shooters at times. Curry definitely is a lucky shooter. How he makes some of the shots he does is beyond me. It's kind of amazing. I mean, even the other night, he shot from 3 in quarters court. And kind of looked at it. At first, you thought it was going in. But when these guys drive in, I just don't see why, like a guy like Boris Diaw or somebody like that, just don't go and hit him as hard as they can. I mean, if the guy's going up, you can act like you're blocking the ball and hit him as hard as you can. I mean, you can call it a flagrant, you can call it a flagrant. But it's going to change their mind about certain things. And I just don't see why the Jazz haven't done it. Like, I can understand why it's not doing it like it's a whole different thing when like Cleveland dominates Toronto because Cleveland has the players like Kevin Love and Tristan Thompson and guys that will go in there and drive. But the Warriors really don't. They only have Draymond Green that will do that. And the other guys are really average players, and McGee and David West and Iguodala a top guy. Iguodala is a different player than that. But you know, when you got 3 guys that just look at the referees every game, you know they're not that tough of players. I don't understand why they're not going after them more. I don't see why they don't have more with some of the star players like that. Definitely in the playoffs, you got to get any advantage you can, and it doesn't seem like the Golden State's really taking that advantage. And I don't know if it's they're scared to, they don't want to play the best team and be called for that kind of stuff, blah blah blah. But I think it would change the series up if they did something like that. You know, if they knocked Curry down a couple times, if they knocked Thompson down a couple times, if they knocked down Durant a couple times. Because Golden State really doesn't have the players that are going to go out there and do that back. You know, maybe a McGee and a West, but they don't play as much as some of the bigger guys do, like Diaw does for Utah. I mean, it's something that the Wizards, you've seen them try to do a little bit, be a little tougher on Isaiah in their series. And really, I'm not watching the Cleveland series that much. I'm really not watching basketball that much, but I do kind of pay a little bit of attention to this series for the Quinn Snyder, you know, Mizzou coach. Mizzou hasn't been the same since he left, obviously. And I watch a little bit of that. I watch the Washington-Boston series because of Beal and Porter Jr. and the 2 point guards. It's not kind of fun to watch Wall and Thomas go at it. 2 of the top point guards in the league, really going out there and getting it done, and you know, going back and forth. I mean, it's kind of fun to watch. But I'm not the biggest basketball fan of the first. Not really the biggest NBA fan. I'll say that. College basketball. I like college basketball. It's more of a team game. It's not going to be this year for Mizzou. And wow, what a recruiting class that is. I need to look into that a little bit more. They actually lost a guy this week to Kentucky. It didn't seem like a. We'll talk about that in a minute. We'll just because there was something on Twitter. I kind of forgot about it now. See what this show does sometimes. This reminds you of things maybe I want to talk about. But yeah, I mean, for the Jazz to have a chance in the series, you're playing a team that's going to score, and that's what they do. So you got to stop them. You got to stop their top guys. And I think if they played a little bit harder on offense, they played a little bit more rough with guys like Curry and Thompson, it could make a difference in this series. And it might be too late by now. I mean, they played pretty well last night not doing it, but after that, maybe now they go out there and maybe they play a whole different game. Because it's game, I mean, you're on your elimination game. You see what happened when the Blues were on their elimination game. They played 2 different games. They played a whole different style hockey. Which hopefully is the hockey they play next year. Except for the defense. A little scary to think about now. Maybe they do. But since they're on the brink of elimination, maybe they do go after Curry and Thompson and Durant a little harder. And make guys like that aren't the top players, make them put in their McGee some more. Make them put in David West some more. And then that opens up your game a little bit because you're not having to chase around, 3 pretty fast guys, and they run a lot of ball screens and they run around a lot. Maybe you keep the bigger, and Draymond Green's one of them too, but you're not going to be able to be that tough with him. He's a pretty strong guy, but you still have to chase him around a little bit. But hopefully they do, It's going to open up your game more if you're going to have bigger guys like West and Jamal McGee out there. And it's just something I just noticed, and I really think that should happen more in the playoffs, or the NBA playoffs, with guys that are running shit like that. Because essentially it's a 4-game series. The team gets on a roll. And why would you want to get eliminated in 4 games? You know what I'm saying? So why not stop it? Why not play a little tougher on guys that want to look at the referees? Because they're going to get foul calls randomly anyways. Because they're always complaining. Like, I haven't really seen the Utah Jazz too much look at the referees. I can't remember. It was Golden State. It was a Golden State game. But you've seen, it was twice back to back. You see Diaw get smashed in the arm. He really didn't look at the referee. He went the other way. A guy like Matt Barnes, who acts like some big tough guy, gets hit on the arm, and he flails all over the place like a nutball. So hopefully the Jazz get him back on that. Matt Barnes, shit talker of the great nation. Still not, I just never understood the whole Matt Barnes thing. And if you can get guys like that play, make a difference in their team, like a Matt Barnes. I mean, I would do it too if I was Golden State. I have basically a starting line, a team that could go start. His name is Livingston, West, McGee, Iguodala, and Matt Barnes. Them guys have all been starters in this league. You got your top 10 is basically a starting lineup for a crappy team. You never know. It could be a halfway decent team with them 5 guys. So it's just something to look at maybe in Game 4 to see if maybe the Jazz go at them a little bit harder than they did. Now, I'm not going to talk about this ever again. Always Draymond won the Kentucky Derby. For most of you that don't watch that stupid shit. Oh, hold on. But if you see in the... Now, let's go back to basketball just for a second. And let's see, I'm just... Go with the flow. Go with the flow. See the hair? Flowing. Go with the flow. Go back to that college basketball thing. Not me not liking anything in college basketball. But you see how people are going at recruits now when they don't pick their team? And that's a bad thing with Twitter. She had a coach last night who was former Mizzou coach or video assistant, something like that, who went with Kim Anderson to Pittsburgh State. Was actually going after Mizzou, and then whenever someone caught him, he was deleting tweets and blah blah. And then Gabe DeArmond, who writes for PowerMizzou.com, was basically calling him out on it, and the guy blocked him on Twitter. But to see coaches doing that now is funny. But he was basically saying that the money couldn't get Mizzou that guy. And he went to Kentucky because he was getting more money. And Mizzou's only got Porter and stuff because Romar left him because his dad's a coach. And that's how they got any of the recruits I got now is because they got Porter. If they wouldn't have got Porter, let's say Porter State of Washington. There was guys that are looking at other colleges that were going to Washington that were going to play with Porter in the first place. But it's crazy that these people go after these kids. Like, this nut, like, you didn't pick my team, so I'm just going to clown the hell out of you on Twitter. And their coaches are doing it now. I mean, these kids see this kind of stuff, and it's kind of fucked up. Like, I say smart ass shit on Facebook all the time when I'm quoting people's stuff, or I screenshot it, because I'm a bastard, and people, be a smart ass, I'll screenshot something that somebody said and just be like, what the fuck is wrong with this person? Because sometimes you do say something, stupid on Twitter, and, these people sit there, like, some of these people, stars, and people like that, like, literally sit there and just look up their name, like, anybody could say their name, like, you could write in. It happened with my brother one time with Tylee Coley. He didn't even say, like, he just mentioned something, and, like, 100 people went after him, and him and Tylee Coley were arguing all night over something like that. But yeah, these people sit there and literally, instead, don't look up their Twitter account, like, where they're at. They look up at their name, Bob Space Johnson, and, put the, so I'll say look up their name and see it. They see it, what the hell, who cares? If you're gonna say it, you might as well put your name. I'll put my name on everything. I don't care. Some of these people have their fake Twitter accounts and their picture. My pictures are enough on Twitter. I didn't have my picture on my Twitter profile, but I put my picture up there enough for people to know who the fuck runs the Twitter account. And it's up there now, of course, because I felt that way. So Twitter's kind of a lost art anymore. Like, Twitter used to be great for things, and sometimes it still is a little bit funny, but it seems like most people have moved over to Facebook, but you still get your information. And they're like, not of sports. All the stuff that comes from this show comes from Twitter. Like, when I see the Mets thing, came from Twitter. This thing I'm talking about right now comes from Twitter, with the college basketball. But, it's nice to see that, Mizzou's going to have a team for one good year. But, some kids will go to that coach. They see a Michael Porter Jr. Go to Mizzou, and he can say it's because of the coaches. There's going to be other kids that come here, and that are 3 or 4 star players. They're going to stay for 2 or 3 years. They could keep this team good for a while. You could say Mizzou did it before Quinn Snyder. He kept good players here, and some people say it was because he was handing out money and blah blah. But like Ricky Clemens didn't even play that long, and Quinn kept his team at a higher rate. Look what he's done with the Jazz. After Jerry Sloan and left and all that, they weren't that very good of a team. And look at him now, whole different team. And Coach Snyder's a coach. He's won championships across the seas and in the NBDL, so he's a good coach. And people obviously seen that before, and why he was probably pretty good at recruiting because his kids seen it. All right, back to the Kentucky Derby, and always dreaming a horse won. And this is where I look like a girl because I was also watching Total Divas, and it was just something. I was just flipping through the channels and I stopped on it. And these 2 girls were arguing. Ray Nye Young, who's with Dean Ambrose, and then Natalia, who's related to Bret Hart, were arguing over their cat's Twitter and Instagram account, and then marketing their animals. What's the point of a fucking... Who follows an animal on Twitter? Who the hell follows a goddamn... I'm telling you right now, I don't know. I might follow some random ass accounts on Twitter. I'm telling you right now, I'm not going to follow some damn animal on Twitter. Like, definitely a serious one. Like, they're actually, like, serious about it. And, like, these people on the Always Dreaming account are serious, too. Like, it's funny when someone makes a funny account based off something, like, they see something stupid and then they make it, that's just kind of... I mean, some people are... Comedy's hard. Some people, are pretty good at it. Well, look at this show. Comedy's hard. But who follows that? Like, who sits there and, like, looks at here's a picture of my cat. Oh, it's got his own Twitter account. Look at these pictures he's taking. Look, he's got boots on. No. Do you really not have a life? Like, go get out of your mom's basement. I'm not saying it all. Like, some people are just bored, I guess, and will follow it. Some people are just weird. Go do something. But sit there and want to look at cat pictures and abandon it. No. Like, some of the stuff's funny. Like, there's no lie. Sometimes when they throw a video on Facebook and, it's got enough views and shares and stuff, like, and people say it's funny, I'll look at funny cat videos. I'll look at a funny dog video. Or even, I shared a good one the other day where, like, a dog didn't notice his owner because the owner just got out of the hospital and lost a bunch of weight. And then the dog ran after him, like, once he smelled him, was the happy as shit. I did a pretty good job in that cussing until now. But, like, there's no point. I'm not going to sit there and wait for your cat to post it, for you to post a picture of your cat on Twitter. Like, it's okay if, like, you have a Twitter account and, like, here's my cat. But then now they're going out there and marketing their animal. I mean, I guess it works. I don't know. I just can see myself following a serious Twitter. I mean, I guess some of them are serious, but they might put something up there like your cat and post something funny, I guess, on Twitter. But no, these people, they're on Twitter. And, oh my god, I just don't understand it. That's the kind of stuff that wears me out doing this show. So it's like I see stuff I want to talk about. Like, it just wears me out to even think it. Like, it hurts my head sometimes. But going back to the Kentucky Derby, I found something. See, this is when comedy isn't hard. When comedy's hard and people are actually funny. Well, someone started Trump horse names on Twitter, and it became a trending topic. And I found a couple of them that were pretty good that I like. But and I'm on the fence with Trump. I'm not gonna say he's the greatest thing in the world. I'm not gonna say he's the worst thing in the world. Neither one worse. And this healthcare thing has got people out of whack, and that people don't understand that the bill's not done, and people now that will see one thing and it's clickbait. It's like, haha, my website got more click than yours type thing. They'll just throw it out there. CNN is the best at it. But then people are like, well, they'll see something and they'll take it to a whole new level, and they don't know what the hell they're talking about. And it's like, I keep it on there because some of it's just hilarious to see, like, people that don't know what they're talking about and they're saying the shit, and the people that shut them down. Like, I keep it on there for the comments and the posts. But like, I'm about to start following people soon because it's effing annoying. The people talking about they don't know. I don't know nothing about it either, but I know enough to know. Like, I actually went and read the bill. That's what I did. I went and read the effing bill instead of like going off some clickbait site like CNN or Fox News or whatever. I went to New York Times, another one, Washington Post. I went and read the bill. And the bill says nothing of what everybody says it does. And so, I mean, is there bad things in there? Yeah. You know how crazy fucking people are going on with Obamacare? And part of that's because he's black. And that's not true. But I think people are going nuts over Obamacare, and that wasn't. We're all alive people, and we all pretty much had the same health care before. It's not going to be mass effing change. It's really not going to be. But it's just something different, and people read little things here and there and then take them out of proportion. But going back to Trump, for the Kentucky Derby, people came up with Trump horse names, and I wrote down a few that piqued my eye. One was Golden Shower, one was Golden Turd, Putin's Pony, Surgical. The best one I think was Surgical Comb Over. It's pretty funny. Unprecedented Wiretap, which is also pretty funny. Orange Stallion, Hack the Track, Pre-existing Condition, and Pussy Grab. I think they're pretty funny. Like, people are actually, that's pretty funny. Pre-existing condition with the whole thing, with the bill and stuff. It's pretty funny. Whole thing with the Bobby thing and Pussy Grab, Orange Stallion, Hack the, them are pretty good ones. And I actually wrote down a few more, but them are the ones that I was scrolling down as I seen them, because some people went overboard and try to, they always want to compare it to the bill. Trump horse names. I mean, they should keep that going for a little while because it's kind of fun, kind of fun to see. And like, whoever thought of that? Like, some people just think of random things to put them on there, and it's funny. If I could do see more of this and like everybody's talking about some damn health bill, I'd be happy. Except for this little grumpy I moved in, we had 2 technical things go on. I'm just crappy anyways, but that's okay. Plus, it's I don't even know what time it is. It's getting later in the day. Didn't get much sleep. But because we didn't do it in this show, don't think that weird news or anything like that's going away. We're going to do one later in the week. If I feel like doing, I might do 2 more. All that. So you'll still get your weird news. You'll still get the hometown rundown. We're still going to do that on one show. But we're not going to do it on every show. Because I'm better than that. I'm trying to make this podcast good. And I'm not going to keep just doing the same things. I'll find stuff like this, like Trump horse names. Like, if someone on there calls Trump Orange Stallion, I'll laugh my ass off and tell you guys about it. But I'm going to try to do other things. I have a segment I want to add sooner or later. So really what's going to happen is I'm probably going to do 2 sports blogs, and sooner or later I'm going to restart the football show back up, and that's where my F Durant Freakly is going to move to. And I'll probably go back and see and that's where I'll do, other stuff, like on the football show before. I did lines and picked fantasy players. we're just going to change up the shows a little bit. I just want to make it different and have some fun with it. It makes me work a little hard on the show when I don't want to use weird news and stuff. I find Trump horse names. I don't know who else we could find. If anybody wants to just come up with horse names and send them to me, that'd be great. Like, if you find a guy, I'll put it on Twitter and let people have fun with it. I don't know if I have enough followers that would actually do it. Or Facebook. Maybe me and my brother could just go there. My brother's pretty funny. So, anyways. I'm just going to do it this week. For my Grandma Bullsby, for Lori and Paul, for Jake, Maddie, Zach, and Joe. This is the Sports Blog. It's been live on Ustream/channel/RBoldlyJR on gstlsn.wix.com /314 and only on the GreaterStl Sports Network.